Trying to reconnect. Now it's connected.
Hello, this is Demonology. Tonight our topic is alien abduction versus demonic possession.
You gotta be kidding.
Oh, I'm not kidding you, Carl. I'm not.
Alien abduction versus demonic possession. I mean, how can you tie those together? I want to hear this. I want to hear it.
Well,
I gotta get out there and hear this.
I gotta do a shameless shout out because I actually originally did this lecture with a man called Frank Sinelli. So Frank Sinelli is watching. You know, I had a great time lecturing about this with you, which really kind of led me to this topic with you, Carl, because of your 47 years of experience.
I thought you were going to say 47 years of life.
47 years, you wish. But with your 47 years of experience, I'm assuming with you being a paranormal investigator, where people get the term inaccurate, where they think it's just ghosts.
Right.
Paranormal investigator encompasses basically anything that can't be explained, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So UFOs and aliens fall within
They all fall, anything that's out of the ordinary. If it's understood and accepted, then it's not paranormal anymore. But, it's a wide array of topics. I mean, anything, just about anything you think of is unusual. Can't be explained.
It untagged everyone, didn't it?
No, it did not. So, as Mark Ardula said for this video, I'm not having a mental breakdown. It's just technology.
Yeah, we were listening to that, Mark.
Yes, we were.
Hope you're listening.
You should be. No, just kidding. But, no, basically why I brought this topic up tonight is because there are many things that are very similar to demonic entities. Very similar to things that we could interpret as ghosts or maybe cryptids.
Similar in that they're not understood.
Understood in that realm.
Yeah.
You know, the word extraterrestrial really was developed from science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a correct statement.
Extraterrestrial of Earth,
beyond Earth.
Yeah.
But the one thing people tend to forget within the discussion of aliens and extraterrestrial is the fact that the word celestial beings, which we incorporate to angels,
right?
If you believe
celestial realms, celestial beings.
And if you believe in demons being fallen angels, which they were once angels of the heavens, that means they are a celestial being. Right. So if you look at the definition of celestial and you look at the definition of extraterrestrial, they're very, very, very similar in definition.
Something that comes from beyond, above and beyond.
Above and beyond, right? So how is it not possible? I'm not saying that demons and aliens are the same at all. I do believe there could be differences in characteristic forms, but there is not a way that you can't say that demons are in fact not alien in a way or extraterrestrial, because in reality, if we take the confines of what an angel is, or God as being life, right, the creator of all life, there's more than just Earth.
How about this for a term? Ultra-terrestrial. Now, I thought I was the first one to come up with that, but I'm not. Ultra-terrestrial. Like, not quite of this Earth, but ultra-terrestrial.
Yeah, and I think where people don't understand is when we discuss aliens, we go to Men in Black, we go to Fourth Kind, all these movies that interpret aliens in the way that they have in entertainment as well as the way that portrayed demonic entities as in an entity.
Well, you probably saw the movie Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind.
Where they did not have a body, or they did, but necessarily they possessed a person. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were. It had the symptoms of what we would interpret as demonic possession.
Which is fascinating because in reality, it's not necessarily against the truth. There are very, very much so similarities within alien abduction or within the process of somebody feeling like they've been abducted. For one, we talked about demonic possession in some detail in our past topics. Time loss, change of personalities, nightmares. Guess what happens in alien abductions? Loss of time, nightmares, or visions. And guess what else? Change of personality, right?
Dramatic changes in personality, some preternatural manifestations.
Yes. And I think where I was getting back to the point of alien, we interpret what an alien is something that is life beyond Earth, correct?
Yes.
But we
also, when you say alien, that's what we think of these days.
So we also have an interpretation of what a demon is, because even though a demon, and this is something that is in literature, it's something that we digressed by biblical scripture, and even sometimes other religions and their scriptures as well as philosophers, is that demons don't have physical bodies. So we go back to the Fourth Kind, right, where they didn't have a body. Why can't necessarily, if I'm not playing devil's advocate here, but if you put it the way it words, they are alien to this world, because if we really take where I get to back to the abilities, if God is the creator of all life, why are angels only set, or demons sent to this earth?
Can I tell you something?
Can you tell
Can
me?
I tell you anything?
Why aren't
right
demons
now?
on
You are
Mars?
so enthusiastic,
I love
my
this
friend.
topic.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating because you can run with it, but you can make some cogent points also.
Yes.
That you mentioned physical.
Yes.
Like angels are not thought of as being really physical.
Spiritual beings.
Yes, they're spiritual beings. They can transmute. They can go through walls. They can do possible things. But the aliens are physical, at least in our general interpretation.
Yes.
They require spacecraft to get around throughout the galaxy.
But do they really?
Our sector.
That's an ideology that is based off science fiction.
Are they projected as something that looks physical, appears as a physical being to us, but maybe they're kind of insubstantial?
Because if you think about it, we take aliens, UFOs, ufology, right? We incorporate this on flying object. We incorporate that to something visiting us. But there are aspects of entertainment of like Superman or Captain Marvel and other aspects of literature and entertainment that corresponds to alien that don't need a spacecraft, right?
Modern representations of Hercules, Heracles, half god, half man, can do fantastic things, but still physical beings.
Yes.
But they have an extraterrestrial origin, at least, the sire, the parent, is an extraterrestrial or a god.
And I don't take this as necessarily fact, because of course, back to the token, this is not fact. Something like ancient aliens, and there are some very interesting theories within that correspondence and things. But even in ancient aliens, they try to show throughout time these interpretations of unidentified objects, and then sometimes that is in relation to an unholy thing or in relation to an angel, and there's interpretations that this was a flying object that came.
Thinking if it's not of God, it has to be of the devil. If it's miraculous,
Yes. Right.
or capable of doing miraculous things.
So
if it's not of God, well, it has to be of Satan, right?
So, yeah, definitely. And where I get to liking this topic,
Because I'm playing devil's advocate
Yes.
here, sounding that.
and where I get to this topic, Carl, why I wanted us to discuss this is because there was a case that I dealt with. In fact, where I was brought in because there was qualifications of demonic characteristics.
Yes.
Loss of time, change of personality, like I said. And guess what? Their whole life, they were having the nightmares. But there was something that was later really kind of brought to the picture, is that this person wasn't having like a personality where something would speak through them. The depression levels of something depressing them felt more like something was taking them. And it sounds weird in that way, but
Taking them sounds like abduction.
yes. And in some way, in some detail, if you look at an abduction, they disappear, they go to this mothership. Why has there been people that were abducted have these visions of them being in a mothership, and they pass lie detector tests? Their story doesn't change.
The story has a certain level of veracity and that it's consistent. It may be incredible, but they're consistent in their story.
And I think that really relates to the credible stories of people that truly
Well,
do
it
demonic
doesn't,
possession.
and if their story has a consistency, that doesn't relate to dementia or imagination. No, because they're going to be flipping out, saying all kinds of things if they've imagined it, or some trauma has induced this vision.
But the funny thing too about that situation as well is that alien abduction and demonic possession stories are very similar. And
They have similarities.
I think where things can be different, and I'm not trying to jump too many places, but I want to talk about one difference that has been noted in the alien abduction cases, or some things in the arm. You've ever hear about
the
implants in the arms? And wasn't there one individual too? I can't remember who, but they actually found something there.
Oh yeah. So it couldn't be, well, it was analyzed, but it couldn't be defined as to what the subject was. They guessed it might be some kind of transmitter, but it's a very basic component.
But do you think for the people that don't believe in aliens and the people that think everything is demonic,
who are you out there if you don't believe in aliens? There are some people who don't believe in aliens.
Yeah, and they believe that they are demonic entities, right?
No,
I've heard that. So, how do you tell somebody that, all right, they have implants, these things in their arm or in their body, and they think it's demonic? How would a demonic entity put an implant in your arm of different technology?
Not really their modus operandi, you know, not what they typically do in demonic lore.
Yeah. Have you ever? That case I was talking about, I brought to move on because I felt a need with my heart telling me that this is something that which happens with. Before this, I was working with a team. They called me. This is over our head, right?
Yeah.
And they call somebody like
Then
ourselves.
they call the demonologist.
But in the same token, what happens to the demonologist comes across something that can't be explained in the spiritual aspect of it. That this necessarily, I don't believe this is demonic. I don't believe this is a spirit because these things have very similar things. But in that same token, I did not understand what was going on. I thought it was something of an extraterrestrial.
Well, then we don't want to say we're in over our heads, do we?
Well, not necessarily.
So we can be.
But
I mean,
there-
it's something ill-defined.
Yeah, but there are specialists in different things. There are people that specialize like in those kind of topics.
Yeah.
They handle them differently. They have specialists that know how to work with those people. Maybe the alien abduction people will see a hypnosis. And really, honestly, too, there are people that have come through demonic possession that have seen a hypnotist as well because of that loss of time. So where do we figure the differences in that?
But can you
It sounds
imagine-
very similar
yeah.
to me, right?
How about this, a collaboration between demonologists and UFO experts or somebody experienced in that realm? You know?
Do we have any questions so far?
We don't have any questions yet, but we do have a whole bunch of people watching if you'd like to know who.
We'd like to know who's, we want to ask, come on, we
Sherry-
get engaged in this conversation.
Sherry Lynn says good evening.
Hi, Sherry Lynn.
Kate Bierfeld is watching, and so is Nancy Leathers. Keith Deniston says hello. Glad to see you two made it back home safe and sound.
Yes, we did.
With
James-
lots of music.
We played a lot of music, we sang,
We saw.
I even dedicated some songs.
James Vieira is watching, as is Shelby Solzberg. Becky Castillo, Pat for Georgia Carlson, Michelle Scully. Holly Buffington is watching from Gettysburg.
Yes,
Ah,
Gerard Hamill is watching, and I told them to just ask if they have any questions on anything you're talking about.
Yes, please, and as well, it will aid in our discussion because I'm for sure in demonology we could discuss this topic.
This is a wide topic,
That's-
a range of topics, you know. I mean, trying to tie alien abductions in with demonic possession. I mean, there are similarities,
Yeah.
as you point out. You know, it's bizarre.
It is.
Because neither one is really possible by empiric reasoning.
And in reality, just like demonic entities, even though there has been observation and so much literature, there's been so much literature on this, and it's still as confusing as an Elrond of it. And it makes you try to wrap your head around it that as demonic possession has been around since probably human civilizations in the past.
Oh yeah, no, and so has ufology. Although it wasn't called such, seeing objects in the sky, craft, way before there were airplanes, aircraft. You know, that's been around.
And it's been documented in paintings, it's been written in literature, and some people interpret it differently, but
Yeah.
there's some interesting things written by people that are very smart, that very relate to the subject of flying objects to this day, what we call them now.
Well, when do you write your book? You know.
Oh yeah, right. We have a question, Carl.
Well, I just wanted to say that Sadie Rose says hello. I forgot to mention her before. And we have a question that someone asked of you before we started, because I know this topic is going to come up. I thought I'd bring it up now. Sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. You
Usually-
should get out here.
Usually blamed for both demons and UFO abductions
Yeah, well, it's a
and
freaky
shadow
thing.
people and a lot of other things.
I mean, it's more understood now, but it's freaky when it happens to you. Sleep paralysis is when, you know, the neuroparalyzer that sedates you, keeps you from thrashing about when you're dreaming, goes into hyperdrive, and it hasn't dissipated yet when someone wakes up, and they're startled awake, like, oh, I can't move, something's on my chest, I can't move. It's really freaky when that happens. I mean, I've had it happen. I mean, I was 13 years old, and I woke up one day, and I was just a head.
Yeah.
I had no sensation from the neck down, and I thought, I'm supposed to go to school today, and the panic didn't set in for the first minute or so. It was just amusing. I said, wait a minute, this could be, I don't know how people get paralyzed, but maybe something happened that I can't understand. And slowly the feeling came back through my teeth and my neck and down.
If I can add to that, mine happened exactly the opposite. It's as you're falling asleep, you hear a very loud buzzing sound, so it sounds like an alien craft landing outside your window. Slowly become paralyzed, can't move, and then see beings around your bed.
And that has occurred in abduction cases. A lot of the detail they've said is they can't move, but it also that's usually brought back by the hypnotist when they go through that session, because in reality they just sometimes they just wake up, sometimes it's just in a car, like they were driving and they wake up in their car suddenly. But
and that I would hint at or suggest abduction.
But
time loss.
Sleep paralysis, I never had it, so I can never physically say that I dealt with it.
Dude, you don't know what you're missing.
Well, I believe it's an experience. But in reality, though, for somebody that goes to the fact of sleep paralysis and jumps to the conclusion of alien abduction or demonic possession, I want to just say, please go get a sleep study done. I forget the name of the sleep doctors. There is a name for it. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Go see a sleep doctor, get a sleep study done on you, and try to see if that natural cause is the factor first before, of course, you jump to the conclusion that you are being probed or being possessed by it.
Well, a somnambulist is what they treat, is a person they treat.
See,
that's the root. Okay, I want to know if you can say this. Can you say transmogrification?
Transmogrification.
I have another hard word for you. A sleep doctor is called a somnologist.
Somnologist.
That's it. See, thank you. That's why we have Elise, because she's not just the greatest woman in the world, but she's very smart as well.
I'll concur with that. Yeah.
Google.
Yeah.
I'm Google smart.
Somnambulic.
Yeah.
It's, the body.
Yeah.
So, that would follow through.
That's
they treat sleep disorders.
We have a couple new watchers with questions, if you would like.
And before we get to the questions, just please share ask more questions, and then remember, after this podcast at 8 o'clock, Carl was not announced for, but we will be on both together on Vegas Supernatural with Sean Whittington after this, and you can listen to that by following my link, and as well, we will post on Do a Demonology as well after the podcast is over. All right, sorry about that.
All right, no, of course. Let's see, Athena Balk is listening, as is Judy Geramonti. Andrew Richburg joins us again, Don the Booty. Jimmy Annitto
Hey, Jimmy.
is there. Let me go back to the first question we got. Is there a difference? What is the difference between alien abduction and possession?
We talked about the similarities. Would you like to start with the differences as I started the similarities of it?
The difference is that demonic entity in the classic sense or accepted interpretation is not a physical being. So it is not typically seen when it assaults or enters the mind of the person. Whereas an space alien, an extraterrestrial, is thought of as being quite physical. It requires a conveyance, some kind of spacecraft to get around, maybe it beams down, but they have to go into a room or into a cubicle through an opening, it is thought. Well, sometimes we wake up and they're just there. But they're more physical, they're solid, they're physical beings, whether they're robotized or whatever they are. That's the main difference. However, sometimes those differences aren't so clear.
Yeah, and that's just based upon science fiction too, like I said. And I really want to play devil's advocate because I want to entice people that are listening to think about the differences and similarities. We go to the fact that aliens are a physical being. Well, what happens if they really truly are not? What happens if they are some
just because
energetic form?
We perceive them as three-dimensional solid beings, but they not necessarily. Maybe they're energy forms.
Yeah.
Maybe their energy is concentrated and they can move physical objects.
And osmosis, isn't that the word? It could be an osmosis. They could be of liquid. They could be of They could be of something that could have intelligence, that have some movability.
And maybe the airborne craft is the entity.
Could be,
right? It's possible, and that the aliens are extensions of them. I personally think that they needed spaceships to get around. Well, God needed a spaceship, right? We have Chariots of the Gods.
And Chariots of the Gods. It's a good book.
Yes, it's a good book. Eric Van Daniken's classic book in his sequels.
Yeah, I really think you hit upon the differences because that really is one of the biggest differences. I think, but in reality, it's not. But there are other signs of the differences as well. Of course, back to the transplants. Demonic entity is not going to
demonic entity wouldn't need to.
Yeah.
They concentrate on one victim, one subject. Why would an alien need an implant to keep track of the biological functions, the levels, and maybe to track where the person is?
And two, I think also the biggest difference is the nightmares or the visions that people get, especially if it comes back to them, sometimes without hypnosis, is of course these creatures surrounding them and dissecting them. We met a woman that her name was Cookie. She felt like she was abducted, and she knew somebody else that they came together, and that they actually said that they were on the same ship together. They explained the same details, and they had never met before.
For those of you who came in late, James and I were speaking, presenting, and meet and greet at Winter Parafest, Rochester, New York.
So, but with her story, she came back to her, and because of the activation between that guy talking about it, and she was abducted multiple times.
Did you have an opinion on what she was saying? Did you doubt her?
I don't doubt her, because why would a demonic entity, they are master manipulators, so maybe they are trying to put it onto something else. Think you're being abducted by aliens, but in reality you are being oppressed by a demonic entity, and being, in a way, it is the word for it, being molested by this thing.
And it induces trauma. If somebody's been abducted, they can't remember what happened, and they have this time loss, and they get little glimpses of having been abducted. That's going to be traumatic.
And I think the difference is too, is a lot of these times that these people get abducted, they're not in their houses, they're driving, they're
that's something.
Maybe you could come across a cemetery or something that maybe something evil is there and somehow it latches onto you, but not when you're driving down the road. I don't think a demonic entity is just going to come out and say, hey!
There's another difference, you're usually in your home when the demonic possession occurs.
Yeah, the abduction can happen anywhere. It's happening. It can happen.
And they seem non-discriminatory. Like why would that anybody can be abducted? It's not the Albert Einstein that gets abducted.
Yeah.
It's not the Stephen Hawking. It's well, if there is such thing as an average person, it's the person driving down the road. Betty and Barney Hill, that classic case in New Hampshire. And I was privileged to meet Miss Hill, and I actually got to sit and converse with her for some time.
Yeah, and like somebody like Travis Walton, his story.
Yes. When you speak to these people, it's very hard to doubt them if you really listen, because of the consistencies in their stories.
Almost definitely. Yeah, and they're very sincere. But and I think where there is a big jump, there's a lot more people that claim demonic possession than alien abduction. I don't know the true statistic, but I believe that there's especially because there's a difference in the entertainment aspects. There's more focus on demons and entertainment than there are aliens.
I think that's because the demons are
now lately, in fact,
so to speak, accessible.
Yeah.
They're around us more, or people feel they are. Space aliens, you have to kind of be at the right place, or the wrong place at the wrong time.
And I feel like
the wrong place at the right time.
And also,
you really want to be abducted.
And also, too, I think one of the people tend to forget when it comes to demons and ufology or alien abduction is there is actually more of a scientific backing in the ufology department than there is.
That's an excellent point.
In necessarily in demonic possession. There are psychologists that deal with in the realm of those things.
Yeah, but then they debate with the parapsychologist, and it's clinical in their assessment. With demonic possession, but you don't really have a lot of empirical evidence. It's very subjective. Yeah,
but there's better evidence compared to
Yeah, because you've got remnants of craft, you've got eyewitnesses to the spacecraft that corroborate, and you've got maybe an implant, some piece of metal that can't be identified, beryllium or whatever it's similar to, but they can't totally identify the metal. They don't know what this thing is. It's an object. It's obviously been crafted. It's been engineered. It's been made. It's been synthesized, but they don't know what it is.
And in your opinion, I have an opinion on this, but I want to hear yours first. If you were to look at history with the paranormal, would you say Roswell's more important, or The Exorcist, the true case of The Exorcist, was more important?
I like your question. I don't know if I have an answer for it. Oh my word.
That's a hard one.
I'll tell you, I'm more interested in Roswell.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah, I mean, as far as my actual interest level.
Because there are so many things to it.
Probably The Exorcist is more relevant and germane because it deals with the human psyche. We all have mind. We all have psyches and invasions. Sometimes that's what it deals with.
Yeah.
We don't all have that kind of invasion. But maybe in a larger sense, the Roswell case of that, purview, because what's watching us? What's out there? Why are they interested in us?
And there's more collective data to Roswell as well, with, you know, shards being found, like you said. So there's more to lean on the empirical aspect, even though it is not fact. It is more, you're more able to lean on that realm of things than something.
But you know what the good thing about parapsychology is? As any member of Panoramic Paranormal can tell you, we can have both. We can examine, you know, ufology, UFO phenomena, and it can be paranormal too.
Ghost
Yeah,
phenomena.
ghost and all that.
Yeah. And what is a prime example that's close by to us that has all this kind of phenomenon? Bridgewater Triangle, right?
Oh, convergent phenomena. Yes, in the Bridgewater Triangle, which is still defined, but
It's not really a triangle, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of octagon.
Yeah.
It's a massive.
I think we have another question.
We've picked up 2 new viewers, Anthony Ursillo and Paul Carden.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
And and Crystal Lee. Hello, Crystal. Let's see.
So we've
Well,
had different.
We've had many
good
comments, not a
For
lot
those
of
people who have written to
questions.
me, I'm going to get back to you. I really am. I made a stab at it today.
Andrew mentions that abducted cases makes people sound insane.
So doesn't the claim of demonic possession too? I think that when people claim demonic possession, that instantly is instant red flag to me, because a lot of people at the time that they are being possessed, they truly do not know what is going on, and hence they lose time. They think that maybe something of naturality is happening to their lives, like they're just going in a slump. And a lot of those people though that are truly possessed don't know they're possessed. So when somebody's claiming that instantaneously to me, there are concerns of mental health.
Yeah,
I can
they jump to that conclusion, but that's their way of defining it. It makes it understandable to them.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that in that case, I didn't have that person speak to a therapist when I gave them to move on, but nowadays I probably would if I came across a case where somebody was claiming they were a ducky, and they probably wouldn't necessarily come to me as a demonologist. That was just a rare case that I came across that they thought it was claiming to be demonic. You know, that's what they thought because they didn't believe it, and that was the greatest thing that they can relate to because of those similarities that were happening. So you know, it's hard. You know, I probably would if somebody said I was abducted, I probably would have to go see somebody because, you know, maybe it is a figment of their imagination. Maybe it's something they actually wanted because, like,
They have to work their way through it, but maybe they find resolution
Yeah.
through uncovering what happened or what they feel.
because
to them.
in the same token, people that claim demonic possession, there are people out there that falsely claim being abducted as well.
Well, yeah, get you interviewed,
Yeah, it does.
but then you become a freak show. But I mean, you can if you put yourself out there. I'm abducted. You're going to get people come out of the woodwork. They're going to want to interview you, so you got to know. You got to like take your lumps if you do that. Because not everybody's going to take that seriously. Maybe I exaggerate when I say freak show. But, you know, you get on talk shows, people ask you questions. You got tongue-in-cheek the interviewer when they're interviewing you usually.
And eventually those people will eventually stumble on their story too. Their story will, and this is where, of course, where the versus is a similarity too. When you're dealing with something that needs to be falsely claiming being abducted or falsely claimed that possessed, is if you really dissect what they are claiming, and for the people that are falsifying it, their stories will change. It just maybe small, but their story will change to a degree, and that is going to catch them in that line.
Well, that's what the interviewer will try to do. You know.
And that's a good, that is a good way to kind of sift through what you're dealing with.
Yeah, if they're worthwhile as an interviewer, they will try to look for inconsistencies. So, you know, if somebody has a case, they've got to know their story well.
Got a question?
This is a good question from Andrew. It's something that I'm interested in, the history of UFOs and demonology. Why do some people believe that the Bible has a lot of UFO sightings?
Oh, because it does. Ha! Because they are described in such detail. And of course, we think classically of the book of Ezekiel, and there's an account of the wheel in the sky. I mean, there's such a detailed description of this, and of the Ark of the Covenant, its measurements and all. These devices are good catch. These devices that are described in the Bible, these crafts too, you cannot read them nowadays. Well, thank you. If you didn't take out an eye, or let's say it's difficult to read them unless you take a very, theological and faithful interpretation. you really seem to be reading about spacecraft and extraterrestrial devices. I mean, that's why the book, Chariot of the Gods, groundbreaking work, was written. And if you read it, I mean, if we had a Bible from me, I could, bring out some scripture.
The Book of Enoch too, I believe.
Book of Enoch. Oh, the apocryphal Book of Enoch, which is actually a series of, I believe, 5 books and 3 major sections. And but it's encapsulated as the Book of Enoch. Now that was excluded from the canon Bible. It was too much of a departure from other more relevant books. But the Book of Enoch tells of the watchers coming down, and I have some notes that appeared in front of me about that. I mean, somebody's been doing some research here.
Wasn't this like a Star Trek thing? I just paged it.
Yeah, it was here. Someone had seen it. Okay, we're talking about Lucifer. Now that's the devil, of course.
Yeah.
But etymologically, what does that mean? Lucifer, luce. Fair. The fair is to carry, and luce is light, and Lucifer, the bringer of the light, an archangel, in some theological strange, an archangel refused to honor man, God's creation, and he was cast out of heaven to roam the earth until the end of time. I think you've heard that one.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, gonna have to.
Well, Andrew brought that topic up about how, like, the history of it, right?
Yeah.
So you said a perfect thing, right? A lot of people.
I read it.
Yeah, you did. You read these notes,
Some
right?
perfect person wrote this.
I wonder who. But the thing is that you said it right here, Lucifer means bringer of light, right?
Yeah.
What are signs of UFOs? A light in the sky, right? Coming forth to you.
Lucifer is the moment represented by and is embodied in the morning star. So you get the morning star there, and that can be like the star of Bethlehem at night, and the morning star in the morning.
Some of the signs of old literature describing it before even we were
And I'll tell you,
colloquially, in the sky.
in a colloquial term, when Venus, the planet Venus, as we see, that's Venus when it's the first star to appear in the sky, and the planet actually, of course. But in the morning, you see that one last, that's the last one fade, and then it was called, in the 19th century parlance, 18th, 19th century, that was Lucifer. It's called Lucifer in the morning and Venus at night. So it's celestial.
Very interesting, huh? Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, because it brings the dawn. They're like.
And we don't mean to confuse you with.
Yeah, we digress.
We need to create discussion because the one thing that we really, as new demonology and as a research unit, of people trying to throw away misconceptions, we're also trying to give you something to think about too.
Yeah.
Because as we say, and we really stand by this. This is not that. We have had our personal experiences and our personal
It
opinions.
is speculation and discussion.
And the best way to speculate and discuss is to have theories and come at them and see where they come from. Right?
That's why it's sometimes fun to do this stuff.
Sometimes
it's moments. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
We have another question.
Yeah, we have a couple of new watchers. Daye Cabezas Giamacco is watching, and Deborah Morissette Ward has a question. Is it possible that people who claim to be abductees can actually be possessed?
Ooh.
Yes.
I'd say, yeah, why not? Yeah, okay. Because of the similarities in the experiences, the person has a displacement in time. It's transient, sometimes they're out of it, sometimes they're back into awareness. So, so, I mean, is it more that somebody who's possessed can interpret that as, or it's becoming possessed, interpret that as alien visitation, perhaps alien abduction? And how about inversely?
Yeah.
Can the person who's been abducted think they were possessed?
Yeah, like it goes back to the same token that what we say as demonics, I really call them master manipulators because they manipulate. So back to the same token, why couldn't they give you a vision of something
It
else?
sounds very complicated.
Really?
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, and I don't think anybody's ever come across, what happens to somebody that was abducted and possessed?
I know,
You think that's possible? You think that they could?
Well,
they
in
could
the
deal with the
long
same
scheme of human existence, I don't know, probably not. But unless one could lead to the other, unless somebody is so shaken by their abduction and their experience with an alien or alien craft,
and then pick something up.
You know, maybe they could pick something, cooties up along the, yeah, maybe, you know, who knows?
Because you think about it, right? If you're abducted, you're losing time, you're having these visions or nightmares, and your faith is just deconstructed, broken down.
I like the way you put that.
And you're investigating, you go to a location that could have evil, and you're weakened because of that subject. What happens if you gather a demon that follows you back, starts infesting your house and oppressing you, and then leads to possession because you are weakened because of the abduction? I know it's never happened, but it makes me wonder if that is
I would say
possible.
the average, like rounding it off, about 11 billion people that have ever existed on this planet. I think are human beings. That may have happened once, twice, you know.
It's like getting struck by lightning.
Maybe more,
It's
yeah.
really a big rarity.
Well, I can get struck by lightning if I really, really want to. I can greatly increase my odds.
But naturally, if you don't go out with like a conductor,
Yeah.
the chances you being struck by lightning it's a small.
Well, I can increase my odds. Let's put it that way.
In that line of thinking,
Yes.
what would the purpose of an alien wanting to take you over and a demon wanting to take you over? Would they have like intents?
Well, the difference is the demons don't give you back. The aliens might.
Aliens
When they're done with you, you know, they might put a tracking device in you.
So they would not have the same
But you
intent.
can basically go on with your life. If the demon succeeds, you're going to be messed up mentally, psychically, even spiritually, you know, for life. So, yeah, maybe
Parents do that are related.
the aliens don't always give you back. Not every time.
We have another watcher, Mandy Patton Connect. My mother thinks she was abducted. She has missing time and has a total phobia of anything to do with the Greys.
I didn't know how you meant that when you said that we had another watcher.
Not that kind of watcher. I am
Yeah.
not talking about
Yeah.
the watchers.
Uh-huh.
They are watching this car.
So the mother feels that she was
Shemyaza.
abducted. And she's, you know, convinced of it. Well, it's a good chance she was. It's impossible to know unless you talk to the person, even then you can't be sure. It's very real to that subject.
Yeah. And if she does feel abducted, though, that she could go see a hypnotist if she really wants to bring the past back. And, you know, in fact, we've known that as a possibility that somebody could bring those visions back. Because that's subconscious.
I think of cases that I've known. Audrey and Debbie Hewins, the Starborn sisters. I wish I could have gotten one or both here. But this was short notice. You know, and you've met them too.
Well, I met one of the sisters.
I have a couple of photographs of my twin brother Keith and me with the identical twins. Them, you know, at a marathon.
That's paranormal itself.
Yeah, so, you know, we were divided. I think there's a third of us.
Isn't that? That is weird.
The
The twins of demonology, the twins of alien abduction.
They should be doing the
We
show.
can take this on the road. Yeah. Now, can you imagine?
That's a freak
The
show.
viewership we would have if we had them here. We can always repeat this because we'll never, you know, put on the things to talk about with this.
Definitely. There's so many things within history that we can just pinpoint and reflect upon.
I can't say I accept all their story because I haven't spoken to them at length about it. I have a feeling they could very much convince me if I heard all the aspects
Definitely.
of their experiences. But why would they favor? Why would they pick that? Because of their twinship?
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder as to why are certain people abducted? Is there a certain gene to them? Is there a certain thing to them that makes them special where the alien wants to abduct them? Like, is there a certain thing about them? Because why them? Well, in that same conclusion, why are certain people possessed?
You know, like Keith and I are both demonologists, but that's hardly coincidental, you know, because that was of our own volition. But we have a lot of coincidences between twins. Yeah.
Probably not even synchronicities that you guys deal with.
I swim through synchronicities. You know. I don't think there's a day goes by when I have some bizarre things like today.
Yeah.
You know. We have another question yet? People cogitating.
We do not. Everybody's still thinking about what you said.
I guess I think we've blown some minds tonight because
Including our own.
including our own. Well, not really necessarily because you know it's a subject that is expansive, and I wish some questions were there because we could pinpoint something that somebody wants to hear, but to the fact of it is that there are, and this is where we keep repeating ourselves, there are similarities, but there are differences. But you can also a mistaken case as well. You could say, oh, that person.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure that has happened. I'm sure even like in earlier times, like medieval times, people would be, you know, if they were abducted, they were.
Considered
The devil
witchcraft.
took, yeah, it was witchcraft. The devil took them away. They must be practicing witchcraft.
And they probably were hung because of that too. So you really never know. That's their story.
You just can cogitate about this and cogitate.
Mm.
I cogitate every morning about things like this.
You do.
Well, you know I do.
So I always ask you.
I
always ask you the question. Do you have something that you want to bring forth? Maybe that you've been reveling in your head about the subject.
And reveling in my head.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that. I cogitate and then I revel in my head.
Yeah.
Usually that way. But what you're saying now,
Is there something that when this topic's at hand something that comes to your mind that maybe we haven't discussed yet?
yes, it does. I mean, burst of inspiration. I mean, because, you know, being a paranormalist is just open to subject after subject. And some of them seem quite relevant. I mean, you know, are aliens always watching us? Are we being surveyed? You know, are we under surveillance?
And why?
What's that?
Why?
And why? Yeah, what is their purpose? That we can't know. We can say they're examining us, they take physical examinations of us, you know, tissue samples. But why would they do this? I think they would have us figured out by now. But that's a humanocentric trait. I'm trying to humanize them. Like, you know, what would I do if I was an alien? Why are they so interested? Well, we're interested in you know, animal species. We're always examining the chimpanzees and see what they do because they're kind of close to us. But there's got to be some reason why, for uncounted thousands of years, these aliens seem to find an interest in us. You know, they must be related to us somehow. You know, what do they want from us? I mean, they could probably wipe out human civilization if they chose to.
Especially if they have spaceships.
Yeah, spaceships can do that.
With lasers.
Photon torpedoes. With lasers. Lasers can wipe us out. And those space lasers can do it.
Well, it's true though. If they really do have spacecraft that are capable of the things that are said,
I don't think they're like
that's beyond our technology.
so powerful that they could like undo the planet, but you can be subtle to undo a civilization. We're a fragile species, although we're quite inventive and resilient. If they wanted to destroy us, what's wrong with like creating some engineering, some kind of virus that, you know, we deal with those all the time. If you can get one that is especially virulent, or just shut off some of our machines and infest our computer system and send us back to the Middle Ages. You know, there are ways to undo us if we were any kind of threat. They just didn't like us around.
Yeah.
You know, you don't necessarily need to blast us out of existence, and I really don't think they have the power to do that. I don't know if they have. They haven't. Unfortunately, they haven't done it. But you know, human beings within the last century, within the last 80 years, have developed the atomic bomb. Yes, they have. You know, with devastating force and potentiality. So,
now,
yeah.
with the hydrogen bomb,
Hydrogen bomb.
we have so many.
These are bad bombs, yeah. And they're really bad bombs. Bombing bad. But, you know, if we can do that, I don't think we're that far behind the aliens, except in a technological sense. You know, they seem interested in us. Maybe sometimes they are us.
Yeah.
They're among us, and they move among us.
It's true.
And you get into shadow persons, that form of ghost or apparition. Are they tied in with the aliens?
Yeah, they're going to correspond to alien abduction instead of seeing physical representation of an alien. They see shadows. That's.
And you know what stymies us, what is so frustrating? We have nobody to ask but ourselves. We have people, eyewitnesses, you know, or they can give their testimonies. We can speculate like we're doing now, but we can't interview the aliens. They're not talking. And if they did, well, they answered Betty and Barney Hill's questions, but then they erased their memories, at least temporarily. How do we know there's any veracity to what they're saying? You know, how do we know they're going to tell us the truth, or we can't comprehend the answers that we're seeking?
Oh.
You know? But I would love to ask them. I mean, who's going to believe me if I start talking about aliens? Because I'm a demonologist. If I start talking about, you know, actually, some people would. You know, but I have definitely questions.
Investigators before demonologists too. I was an investigator before I was a demonologist, so you know, maybe they would come to us because we investigate all things.
We just have to promise not to tell. Maybe. Yeah, I promise. But, I just like to know, because I wonder if these, what we call the aliens, if they have a propensity propensity for curiosity. Are they motivated or driven by curiosity? I don't know. Are they that much like us that they can actually be curious? They want to see how we'll turn out. I think they have some wide, far-reaching agenda for us. It has to do with procreation.
Yeah.
A question.
Have time for one more question before you have to turn over to the other show.
This goes by quickly.
I just want to say hi to Chris Spinney Andrade. Can't wait for April 4th to see you guys. And then Mandy Connect has another question. What are your thoughts on the theories that people with Rh negative blood are descendants of the Anunnaki?
Because of the origins of that and the paucity of Rh negative, yeah, I think there's something. It might be just a biological development, but it wasn't around earlier as far as what they've done, in analyzing ancient remains. It suddenly sprung up. I think it was about 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, so we haven't, I could be corrected on that, but also we had this Rh negative factor in the bloodstream and in the tissue, histology, has supported that. And to sum it up, I'm not using too many big words, I do think, I think that's something that's been introduced into us through alien intervention. I don't guess, but I do think something.
That was a perfect answer. I kind of want to throw this one out there as a zinger.
Well, it's a perfect question.
With that blood type, right?
Yeah.
So I go back to the aspect with that, talking about 4,000, 8,000 years old, this blood coming out of nowhere, the blood type. But what about the fallen angels?
Was that their blood type? They intermingled with humans,
Right.
With,
That was what wasn't that one? That was half angel.
Yeah, they were half
giants, right?
Angel. They were like enormous beings because they were half
But
god or half
that started
angel.
the blood type, and that goes back to our
Maybe that started.
humans.
Maybe it was like detected 4,000 years ago, but maybe it had its remote origins in what we call the Nephilim. Wow.
And there were other civilizations around the world who had similar descriptions of people, whether it was the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Inca, all had different beings that were, they weren't near Sumeria, but they had those kind of beings that were supposedly brought knowledge from afar into human mankind.
I gotta say, my niece, talking about synchronicity for a moment, my niece had a license plate, one of her vehicles had a license plate, one of her registrations. It was RH and then a dash, and she's RH negative factor. And I said, do you realize what that coincidence is? That's synchronicity, which and she, she had an answer for that. So I just didn't impress her. To me, I thought that was terrific.
But that's a great topic, is that they've seen they have that, but also a lot of the times that they see these deities come from the sky as well, these gods, right? Remember when the Spanish arrived?
Oh yeah,
They thought the Spanish was a gift from Quetzalcoatl.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did. Because there were these people that, and it had been predicted that these beings, these light-skinned beings, would come in crafts, and they essentially did. That's why they were accepted, much to the demise of the Incas.
But
it's about our time now. We can do part 2 on this easily.
I think we could, and for people that maybe that aren't interested in maybe asking a question on this topic, we are going to do something this Saturday. Do you know where we're going to be this Saturday?
Oh, I think it's going to be down like in Gettysburg or something like that.
Well, it is.
It's headed toward
Gettysburg. Well, it's within the city. I think it's like 10 minutes away from Gettysburg.
It's not classical Gettysburg. We're not going to be in the battlefield.
Well, we could be.
Well, I would wander over there.
We can see if we can
You
get.
really think this is going to be a day trip, don't you?
Well, if we can see if we can get abducted on the battlefields while experiencing.
If you don't see us,
As long as they have you
after this
back by 6.
yeah, we'll see if we can bring some other cargo on us.
But yeah, so Saturday, this Saturday we'll be actually at the Gettysburg Ghost Exchange grand opening. I believe that is around 3 o'clock. And then we have an event at the Lookout House by the same people that own the Gettysburg Ghost Exchange, Stephen, Pam, Harry, that they own the Lookout House in there.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
We have a guest there.
We are the guests, and we are raising money for the SOS Team Paranormal Camp. They bring kids to historical locations to revel in the knowledge of the history of our civilization in America. So it's going to be a great time.
So we're going to be paranormal camp counselors.
We are. And they're going to have
How worthy.
And so if you are going to be there this Saturday and you want us to expand on this topic, don't hesitate to ask us, and please make sure you come to this event this Saturday, because it's only $20.
Yes, and the event is well worthwhile for a good cause, as James was saying. And we've had a lot of fun with this discussion here, but it's, you know, for every attempt at an answer, we're going to get 3 or 4 or 5 more questions, but it's just so fascinating. Now, I think we've made some progress here, and that we've started to tie these two phenomena, seemingly unrelated, together.
And they're very closely related, so you just have to make sure that if you research the topic, that you understand the similarities and differences, because you might come across it and you might not understand what you're dealing with.
Hey, I hope our favorite store buyer is listening in too. If Andy is, maybe he is.
So guys, if you want to keep on listening to us, we will be on Vegas Supernatural at 8 o'clock, and we will be on for another 2 hours. So we have a long time of discussion.
And even if you don't want them, I think you should.
Yeah, I think we should. All right, guys, have a great rest of the night.
Thanks so much.
And please listen in.
We'll be back.